This is Chief Ebenezer, a man who made a life-changing decision to divorce his wife and marry his maid. But why would a man leave the woman he once loved for someone society sees as beneath him? What could drive such a choice? Let's uncover the truth in this powerful and emotional story. Before we begin, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're new here, kindly subscribe and join us for unforgettable stories filled with lessons, love, and second chances. Let's get started. The sun had barely risen over the sparkling waters of Banana Island when Chief Ebenezer Okafor stepped out onto the balcony of his mansion, a steaming cup of tea in his hand. The early breeze carried the faint scent of the ocean, and from his position, he could see the Lagos skyline shimmering in the distance. Chief Ebenezer was a man who wore success with quiet grace. His caftan was simple, white, and spotless. Even without gold chains or flashy rings, his presence commanded respect. In his 55 years of life, he had fought his way from a humble beginning in the dusty streets of Nsukka to becoming one of the most influential real estate moguls in Nigeria. But no matter how far he rose, humility clung to him like a second skin. His peace, however, was something he had been struggling to hold on to, ever since the day he married Felicia. The sound of sharp heels striking the marble floor drew his attention. Madame Felicia emerged from the hallway like a queen stepping into court. She was dressed in a flowing silk robe, her hair perfectly styled, and her makeup already flawless, even though it was barely 7 a.m. A whiff of expensive French perfume trailed behind her as she walked. "Good morning," Chief greeted warmly. "Morning," she replied curtly, not meeting his eyes. He took a sip of his tea. "I thought we could have breakfast together today. The chef prepared." She waved her hand dismissively. "No need. I told you I don't want to eat that oily food the cook makes. Besides, I'm going to the spa later. I don't want to feel heavy." Chief sighed. "Felicia, I've been thinking. We have a big kitchen here, but it's been months since you cooked. You remember how we used to cook together when we first got married? Those were good times." She turned to him with a smirk. "Ebenezer, please. That was years ago when I didn't know better. Cooking? In this heat? With my nails? No thank you. I am a wife, not a servant." He looked at her steadily. "It's not about being a servant. It's about showing care. A home-cooked meal sometimes means more than anything money can buy." Felicia gave a short laugh, dripping with mockery. "Care, please, don't lecture me about care. You have money, don't you? Money buys care. Hire someone. Hire 10 people if you want. That's what rich men do." The words stung more than Chief cared to admit. He had always believed that love was expressed in the little things. A meal cooked with patience, a shared laugh over something silly, a gentle touch in the evening. But Felicia treated such acts as beneath her. "I don't mind hiring help," he said softly, "but a woman's humility is part of her beauty." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you saying I'm not beautiful anymore?" "I'm saying beauty without humility is like perfume on a corpse. It fades quickly." Her mouth fell open, and for a moment the air between them tightened like a pulled bowstring. "You know what, Ebenezer?" she snapped. "If you want a village woman who sweats in the kitchen all day, maybe you should have married one." Chief turned away, his gaze drifting toward the rippling water beyond the compound walls. Silence settled between them, heavy and uncomfortable. In the distance, a fishing boat bobbed lazily on the waves, its fishermen casting nets with practiced hands. Chief envied the simplicity of that life. No pomp, no pride, just honest labor and peace. Felicia, however, was far from done. "And let me make something clear," she continued, her voice rising. "I will not lift a finger in this house, except to dial my phone or open my purse. If you want things done, get a maid, a cook, and a cleaner. In fact, get a driver for me, too. I don't want to be stressing myself on the road." Chief studied her carefully, wondering if there was still any trace of the warm, smiling woman he had once fallen in love with. But all he saw now was someone consumed by vanity and entitlement. "All right," he said finally, his tone low and controlled. "I will get a maid." She smiled in triumph, mistaking his surrender for weakness. "Good, and make sure she's competent. I don't want to be repeating myself." He nodded and walked past her, heading inside. On the surface, it seemed like he was giving in to her demands. But deep in Chidren, a storm was brewing, and this decision would mark the beginning of a change neither of them could have imagined. That night, long after Felicia had fallen asleep, Chief Ebenezer sat alone in his study. The ticking of the grandfather clock echoed in the stillness. He thought about his late mother, a simple village woman who had taught him that respect was the foundation of love. He remembered her words, "A marriage without respect will eat your peace like termites eat wood." And though he didn't know it yet, the maid he would soon employ was going to test everything he thought he knew about loyalty, kindness, and love. 2 weeks after that tense morning on the balcony, Chief Ebenezer's mansion stood unusually quiet under the blazing Lego sun. The gates swung open and a slender young woman stepped inside, clutching a small, faded Ghana must-go bag that seemed almost bigger than her. Her name was Amara Nwokolo. She was just 22, but life had aged her eyes far beyond her years. Her hair was tied back in a simple scarf, her brown skin glistened under the heat, and her gown, clean but worn, hinted at the poverty she came from. Amara's journey to Lagos had been long and painful. In her small village in Enugu, she was the eldest daughter of a poor palm wine tapper whose back was bent from years of climbing trees. Her mother, Mama Nena, was bedridden with a persistent illness that local herbs could no longer treat. Amara had taken this job in Lagos not because she wanted to, but because she had no choice. Every naira she earned would go toward medicine, food, and perhaps one day, the hospital bills that might save her mother's life. The security guard led her into the marble-floored living room, its air-conditioned chill making her shiver. The vast room felt like another world compared to her mud-walled home. On one end sat Chief Ebenezer, dressed in a neatly pressed sky-blue caftan, typing something on his laptop. On the other, sprawled elegantly on a leather sofa, was Madame Felicia, her phone in hand, nails painted in gold, a cold expression on her face. The guard cleared his throat. "Sir, this is the new maid." Amara bowed slightly. "Good morning, sir. Good morning, Ma." Chief looked up and smiled warmly. "Good morning, my dear. You must be Amara." "Yes, sir." Felicia barely raised her head. "So you know how to cook, clean, and do laundry?" "Yes, Ma." "You can polish marble floors, iron silk without burning it?" "Yes, Ma." "You can also keep quiet and mind your business?" Amara hesitated but nodded. "Yes, Ma." Felicia finally sat up, crossing her legs. "Good. Start immediately. The kitchen is that way. And make sure you don't break anything. This is not your village." Chief frowned at his wife's tone but said nothing. He watched as Amara quietly placed her bag in the corner and followed the head cook to the kitchen. Something about her manner, the humility, the way she answered without attitude, struck him. Within hours, Amara began proving herself. She moved like she had been trained all her life for this role. By noon, she had cleaned the massive dining area until the mahogany table shone like glass. By 2 o'clock, she had prepared a pot of rich egusi soup, the aroma drifting through the mansion. She scrubbed the silverware until it sparkled, organized the pantry without being told, and swept the corridors with precision. The other staff began whispering about her work ethic. "That girl is like fire," the gardener said. "I've never seen someone so fast and careful at the same time." When she brought Chief Ebenezer his lunch, steaming pounded yam with the egusi soup, he took one bite and paused. "This is perfect," he said, genuinely impressed. "Thank you, sir," she said softly. Felicia, however, was less than impressed. She sniffed at her own plate and said, "It's too salty." Chief looked at her in surprise. "It's not salty at all." "Maybe not for you. I have a sensitive tongue," she replied dismissively, pushing her plate away. From that day, a quiet rhythm began in the mansion. Every morning, Amara rose before dawn, bathed quickly, and began her chores. She polished the railings, washed clothes, mopped on the floors, and prepared breakfast before Felicia even woke up. She never complained, never raised her voice, and always greeted Chief with a polite smile. One evening, after a long day at work, Chief arrived to find the mansion smelling of fresh bread and pepper soup. Amara emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray. "Welcome back, sir," she said warmly. He smiled. "Thank you, Amara." "How is your mother?" Her face softened with gratitude that he remembered. "She is still sick, sir, but I'm sending her some money next week for medicine." Chief nodded. "You're a good daughter. She's lucky to have you." Amara's eyes glistened slightly. "Thank you, sir." Felicia, overhearing from the hallway, rolled her eyes. "Ebenezer, must you chat with the help like she's your friend? You'll spoil her." Chief's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. It was in those early weeks that Chief began to notice the stark contrast between his wife and the new maid. Felicia had all the luxury in the world, but no gratitude. Amara had nothing but worked as though she owned everything she touched. Little did he know, this quiet, hardworking village girl was about to shake the very foundation of his marriage and his heart. The first cracks in the house didn't come from the walls. They came from Madame Felicia's voice. Amara! It sliced through the quiet like a blade. Where is my ginger tea? I said hot, boiling, not warm. Amara rushed from the kitchen, careful steps on the portable, a fresh cup steaming in her hands. I'm sorry, Ma. The kettle hadn't finished. Do you argue now? Felicia snapped, eyes blazing. Put it down and leave before you spill it. Honestly, the village is always written on your face. Chief Ebenezer looked up from the newspaper at the dining table, his brows knitting. Felicia, she's doing her best. Felicia's smile turned cold, brittle. And you suddenly know the temperature of tea? Amara Plasty cupped down, her fingers trembling, then stepped back. She had learned quickly that silence was her safest shield. Still, the sting found its way through. She had been in the mansion 2 months, and in that time she had scrubbed, cooked, polished, and served with relentless care. Yet Felicia's words had never once softened. The next morning began at 4:30 a.m. As always, Amara tied her scarf, washed her face in the servants' quarters washroom, whispered a prayer for her mother, then slipped into the kitchen to begin breakfast. Akamu smooth as silk, Akara golden and crisp, Chief's tea just so. By 6, the house was breathing with the soft hum of generators and the distant roll of the ocean. At 7, Felicia came in, a hurricane in satin. My silk dress, she said without greeting. I told you to steam it. It's ready, Ma, Amara replied, leading her to the dressing room. The gown hung flawless on the rack, creases erased, hem perfect. Felicia snatched it down, inspected it, and sighed dramatically. Is your idea of ready the same in Enugu? Look at this. She pointed to a spot invisible to everyone else. There's a shadow of a line here. Start again. Amara swallowed. Yes, Ma. Chief, passing the doorway, paused. Felicia, it looks fine. But it's not perfect, she said, chin lifting. In this house, we don't do fine. Her gaze cut back to Amara. And keep your eyes down when I speak to you. Do I look like your mate? No, Ma, Amara whispered. By midday, the household staff had learned the day's weather would be storm. The gardener lingered outside longer than necessary. The cook busied himself with chopping onions twice. Only Chief moved through the rooms with deliberate calm, as though his quiet might settle the dust. It didn't. At lunch, Felicia pushed her plate away after a single bite. Too oily. Chief tasted the same bunga soup and nodded. It's excellent. Thank you, Amara. Her eyes warmed. Thank you, sir. Felicia noticed the warmth and froze it with a smile. Of course you'd say so. As long as she cooked it, it must be perfect. Tell me, Ebenezer, is the soup sweeter when the cook smiles at you? The silence that fell had weight. Amara's cheeks burned. She lowered her head. Enough, Chief said evenly. Don't be insulting. Insulting? Felicia laughed, a bright, sharp thing. I'm just asking questions. People are talking. You should hear what the driver said. Felicia, Chief warned, we will not slander staff in this house. Felicia's eyes glittered. Oh, so now you protect her from me. That evening, the storm escalated to hail. Felicia called for Amara 3 times in 2 minutes. Water, shawl, charger. When Amara came with the charger, Felicia snatched it from her hand, letting the phone cable lash across Amara's knuckles. What took you so long? I was turning off the oven, Ma. Did I ask for your explanation? Next time, learn to run. Amara bowed. Yes, Ma. Good. Now take off those plates and rewash them. I smelled soap. They were rinsed twice, Ma. Felicia's smile was sugar over steel. Then rinse them thrice. Or is it too much for village hands to count? The plates were rewashing when the crash happened. A glass slipped, shattered on the floor in a bright, accusing starburst. The kitchen fell still. Felicia appeared at the door as though summoned by the sound. Oh, wonderful. You break the dinner set now? That glass is baccarat. Do you know what that means? It costs more than your father's palm wine tree. Amara bent to her shins. I'm sorry, Ma, she whispered, gathering shards with the towel. Chief stepped between them. Felicia, enough. It was an accident. Felicia's mouth curled. You always say that. One day you will wake up and realize accidents are expensive. That night, Amara cried quietly into her pillow. The cook knocked once on the servant's corridor, leaving a small plate of rice at her door. Eat, N.A., he called softly. You worked too hard today. Thank you, she murmured, and sat on the floor to eat, the rice tasting like someone remembered her humanity. The days that followed found new ways to bruise. A necklace went missing, a thin gold chain Felicia claimed was on her vanity. She summoned the staff and paced before them like a prosecuting attorney. Since I put it there, I have not touched it. So which of you thought you could carry Felicia Okafor's chain and wear it to your boyfriend? No one spoke. Amara, Felicia purred, turning. You cleaned the room yesterday, did you not? Yes, Ma. And today? Yes, Ma. Felicia stepped closer, the fragrance of her perfume turning the air sweet and sour. Then if I do not find it, I will assume you took it. Do you understand? Amara's voice trembled. I did not touch it, Ma. We shall see. Chief entered midway, read the room, and said calmly, I bought you a new chain last month, Felicia. Perhaps it's with the others. You think I can't count? She snapped. Then, in a flurry of drawers and silk scarves, the chain appeared, coiled in a jewelry pouch, exactly where it should have been. Felicia did not apologize. Next time, arrange them properly, she told Amara, as though the girl had moved it there, as though truth were elastic. Later, Chief found Amara wiping the quarter railings with unnecessary focus. Are you all right? He asked gently. She nodded too quickly. Yes, sir. He lowered his voice. If anything is too much, tell me. Tears gathered, but she forced them back. I will manage, sir. Felicia's punishments became more creative. She sent Amara up and down the three-story mansion for a scarf she wasn't wearing. She made her remop a floor because a leaf had drifted in from the garden. She sent back meals for being 2 degrees off her definition of hot. She insisted the silver be polished twice a day so the house can reflect my standard. In the quiet between the tasks, Amara would think of her mother, of the cough that rattled like empty tins, of the prayer whispered over a cheap radio, of the day she promised, I will not waste this chance. I will fight with gentleness. That vow steadied her hands. But gentleness did not protect her from humiliation. It was a Friday evening when the sky went the color of bruised mango. Chief was delayed by a board meeting. Felicia was dressed for a dinner with friends, her lips a dangerous red. She called for dinner at 6 on the dot. At 6:05, Amara carried in the tray, grilled fish, plantain, salad like art. 5 minutes, Felicia said coolly, not looking up. I'm sorry, Ma, the plate flew. It smashed against the wall, fish and dressing sliding down like a wounded thing. The sound cracked through Amara's bones. Felicia rose with languid grace. I told you, when I say 6, I mean 6. Time is not elastic because you are poor. She took a slow, glittering breath, eyes narrowing with a satisfaction that felt practiced. You know what? I'm tired of repeating myself. Perhaps a lesson will help you learn. Amara stood very still, dish towel clutched to her chest. Ma? Felicia smiled, a small, chilling curve. Follow me. She led the way through the corridor, past the glittering chandelier, out into the garden where the evening wind carried the scent of hibiscus. The kennels sat in a shaded corner. The dogs were at the far end, watching with placid curiosity. Felicia's heels clicked on the tiles. She stopped at the largest cage and turned the key in its lock. Since you cannot keep time, you will learn how to wait. Sit inside. Amara blinked. Ma, please. Felicia's hand gestured to the open cage, her tone turning bright as afternoon. Sit. For 1 hour, no food, no water. If you move, you are fired. The wind held its breath. Somewhere out front, a car horn sounded at the gate. Amara looked at the cage, metal bars, concrete floor, the dry smell of kibble and dust. Her dignity quivered like a flame in Harmattan. She thought of her job, of her mother, of the medicine due next week. She stepped in. The door clanged shut. Felicia turned the key, slipped it into her clutch, and checked her reflection in her phone camera. Good. Learn to be early next time, she said, and walked away, leaving the garden to swallow the sound of her heels. Amara drew her knees to her chest. The evening cooled quickly. In the distance, the sea murmured. She bit her lip and would not cry. At exactly 6:45 p.m., the gate opened. Chief Ebenezer's SUV rolled into the compound. He stepped out, loosening his tie, carrying the day's fatigue like a coat he would soon remove. He took 2 steps toward the veranda, then stopped, his gaze snared by something wrong in the periphery. A small figure inside the kennel, a scarf, a pair of hands folded around shivering knees. Amara. His voice cracked the quiet. Her head lifted, and the piece inside Chief Ebenezer snapped like a rope cut clean through. The garden was drenched in the golden light of early evening, the hibiscus bushes casting gentle shadows over the tiled walkway. But for Chief Ebenezer, nothing about the scene before him was gentle. There in the corner of the compound, inside a cage meant for 2 German shepherds, sat Amara, knees pulled tightly to her chest, her scarf slipping to reveal strands of hair matted with dust. Her brown eyes lifted to his, and in them he saw something that made his chest tighten. Not just humiliation, but a quiet, aching resignation. He dropped his briefcase where he stood and strode across the lawn. Amara, what is this? Who put you here? Before she could answer, the click of heels announced Felicia's arrival. She stepped out from the veranda in a body-hugging black gown, her makeup flawless, a gold clutch in hand. She looked like she was headed to a gala, not the woman responsible for the shame unfolding in the garden. "Oh, you're back early," she said, glancing at her husband, as though nothing were wrong. "Felicia," Chief's voice was low, dangerous. "Why is Amara locked inside a dog cage?" Felicia's painted lips curved in a slow, deliberate smile. "Ask her. Maybe she'll tell you why she thinks it's acceptable to serve my food 5 minutes late." Ebenezer's eyes darkened. "You mean you locked her in here over 5 minutes?" Felicia shrugged, her tone breezy. 5 minutes today, 10 tomorrow, an hour next week. You know how these village girls are. They only learn through lessons. Lessons? Chief stepped closer, his towering frame casting a shadow over her. "This is not a lesson, it's humiliation. You've locked a human being, a young woman, in a cage meant for animals. Do you hear yourself?" Felicia's eyes glittered with mock innocence. "She's just a maid, Ebenezer. Don't act like you've never disciplined staff before." His hands clenched into fists at his sides. Discipline is one thing, dehumanizing someone is another. Felicia's voice sharpened. "Oh, so now you're her savior? Should I be worried about how protective you're becoming of my maid?" Amara flinched at the venom in her tone. Chief's gaze flicked back to the young woman, huddled in the corner of the cage. Her thin gown was creased from sitting on the cold concrete, her hands trembling slightly from the chill creeping into the night air. Without another word, he pulled the keys from Felicia's clutch. "Give that back," she demanded, stepping forward. He ignored her, kneeling to unlock the cage. The door creaked open, and he held out his hand to Amara. "Come on, my dear. You're safe now." She hesitated, glancing nervously at Felicia. "That's an order," Chief said gently. Slowly, she took his hand. Her palms were cold, her fingers calloused from weeks of scrubbing and polishing. As she stood, he noticed the faint red marks on her forearms from resting them against the cage bars. "Go inside," he said. "Get some water. Eat something." She nodded quickly and hurried toward the servants' quarters, her footsteps light but urgent, the way someone runs from a place where their dignity has been left behind. Chief turned back to Felicia, his voice a low growl. "Do you even realize what you've done? You've crossed a line that can never be uncrossed." Felicia's chin lifted. "Stop acting like you've married a monster. She's just a maid. I pay her, don't I? She should be grateful she's even here." Chief stared at her, disbelief and disappointment swirling in his chest. "Grateful? For what? For being treated worse than the Yeats in this house? She's not family, Ebenezer. Why do you care so much?" He shook his head slowly, almost as if speaking to himself. "Because I'm human. Because I know what it's like to be poor and powerless. Because when I see her, I remember my own mother scrubbing floors to keep food on the table after my father died. And because I will not let my home become a place where cruelty is normal." Felicia rolled her eyes. "So dramatic. You've always been too soft." "Soft?" He stepped closer, his voice rising for the first time. "No, Felicia. This isn't softness. It's decency. Something you seem to have misplaced a long time ago." For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the gulf between them wider than it had ever been. Felicia's eyes were hard, defiant. Chief's were heavy, tired, but burning with a resolve that felt unshakable. Finally, he turned away. "I can't talk to you right now, not without saying something I'll regret." He walked toward the house, the weight of what he had seen pressing down on him like a physical force. In his study, he closed the door and sat in the leather chair. staring at the silent bookshelves. The image of Amara's small figure inside that cage refused to leave his mind. Was this the woman he had chosen to share his life with? A woman who could look at another human being's suffering and feel nothing? That night, long after the mansion had gone quiet, Chief lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Felicia slept beside him, her breathing slow and even, untouched by guilt. But Chief could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Amara's tear-streaked face in the fading light, her hands wrapped around her knees, her body folded into itself like a wounded bird. And for the first time since their wedding, he wondered if his marriage to Felicia had been the greatest mistake of his life. Morning came, but for Chief Ebenezer, it brought no peace. The events of the previous evening replayed in his mind like a film he could not turn off. Amara locked in the cage, the blank cruelty on Felicia's face, and the deafening silence that followed. He had barely slept. While Felicia snored lightly beside him, he lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Every tick of the clock seemed to push him closer to a decision he had been avoiding for years. By sunrise, his mind was made up. At 7 a.m., he rose from bed without a word and went to his study. The soft hum of the air conditioner filled the room as he dialed a number he had kept for emergencies. His lawyer, Barrister Uche. "Chief, good morning." The voice on the other end greeted warmly. "Good morning, Uche," Chief replied, his voice heavy but firm. "I need you to come to the house, today." There was a pause. "Is everything all right?" "No," Chief said flatly. "Bring the papers." "Which papers, sir?" "The divorce papers." Silence. Then the lawyer's voice, careful. "I'll be there in an hour." By 9 a.m., the living room was filled with a still tension. The marble floor gleamed under the morning light streaming in through the tall glass windows. Felicia sat on the sofa dressed in a silk robe, sipping her cappuccino as if the world outside did not exist. Chief entered with Barrister Uche, who carried a brown envelope. Felicia looked up, curiosity in her eyes. "What's this? Are we signing for another property?" Chief did not sit. His voice was calm but edged with steel. "No, Felicia, we're signing for freedom." Her smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" "Divorce," Chief said simply. The cup in her hand froze halfway to her lips. "You're joking." "I don't joke with my peace," he replied, "and I have none left with you." Felicia's eyes narrowed. "Ebenezer, you can't be serious. Over what? A maid? You're ending our marriage because of her." "I'm ending our marriage because of you," Chief said, his voice rising slightly. "Because you have no compassion. Because you treat people as if they are beneath you. Because you locked a human being in a dog cage without remorse." Felicia set the cup down with a sharp clink. "You're overreacting. She's paid to serve. And if she can't follow instructions—" "Instructions," Chief cut in, "to degrade her, to strip her dignity?" "Felicia, I was born into nothing. I know what it's like to be poor, to be powerless. I swore I would never use my position to crush anyone. And yet, I've watched my wife do exactly that." Her voice dripped with mockery. "Oh, so now you're the saint who rescues helpless girls? Tell me, Ebenezer, should I believe you haven't been enjoying her company more than necessary?" The accusation hit like a slap, but Chief's face remained hard. "If I admired her, it's because she has something you lost a long time ago. Humility, respect for people, a heart." Felicia laughed, a brittle, hollow sound. "Humility doesn't buy mansions. Respect doesn't keep you in designer clothes. You married me because I look like I belong in your world." "I married you," Chief said slowly, "because I thought you had a good heart. I was wrong." Felicia stood now, her robe flowing around her like a queen preparing for battle. "You think you can just throw me away after all these years? After all I've given you?" "What you've given me," Chief replied, "is noise where I needed peace, pride where I needed partnership, and shame, endless shame, in the way you treat others. I can't live with that anymore." She stepped closer, her eyes flashing. "If you file for divorce, Ebenezer, I will ruin you in the media. I will tell everyone you left me for the maid. I will—" "Enough!" Chief's voice boomed through the room, silencing her. "You've already ruined yourself. I don't care what you tell the media. My peace of mind is worth more than public opinion." Barrister Uche opened the envelope and placed the papers on the glass table. "Madam Felicia, these are the terms. Chief is offering you a settlement, as discussed." Felicia snatched the papers, flipping through them. You think this will satisfy me? I can take more than this. Take whatever you want, Chief said coldly. Just leave my house and my life. For a long moment, Felicia simply stood there, staring at him. The realization began to sink in that this time he would not bend, would not try to pacify her. The marriage was truly over. Her pride wouldn't allow her to beg. Instead, she lifted her chin. Fine, but don't come crawling back when you realize you've made a mistake. Chief's eyes were steady. The only mistake I made was letting it go on this long. She snatched her phone from the table and swept out of the room, the sharp click of her heels echoing like the final nails in a coffin. Chief remained standing long after the door slammed shut, the silence of the mansion suddenly heavy, yet strangely peaceful. For the first time in years, he felt a weight lift from his chest. But beneath the relief, there was a quiet awareness that the woman he had just freed himself from had once been the center of his life. And now she was gone, replaced by the faint memory of what she could have been. Somewhere down the corridor, he heard light footsteps, Amara's, moving quietly as she worked. And for reasons he could not fully explain yet, the sound felt more like home than anything Felicia's presence had given him in years. 6 months had passed since Felicia's departure, and the mansion felt like a different place entirely. Gone were the constant echoes of raised voices, the air thick with pride and sharp words. In their place was the sound of soft humming from the kitchen, the faint clink of dishes being arranged with care, the quiet rustle of broom bristles sweeping across the marble floors. Chief Ebenezer noticed it most in the mornings. He would come down to the dining room to find the table already set, napkins folded neatly, plates gleaming, the aroma of freshly baked bread drifting through the air. Amara was always there, her scarf tied simply, her brown eyes warm with respect as she greeted him. "Good morning, sir." It was such a small thing, yet it touched him more than he cared to admit. At first, his gratitude for Amara was purely practical. She was efficient, dependable, the kind of worker who noticed what needed doing without being told. But over time, it became something deeper, a recognition of her quiet strength, her dignity, despite the hardships she carried. One Saturday afternoon, Chief returned from a board meeting to find her in the garden. She was kneeling in the flower beds, pulling weeds with her bare hands. Her gown was simple and worn, but the sunlight caught in her hair, making her look almost ethereal. "You shouldn't be doing this without gloves," he said, approaching. She looked up, startled but smiling. "It's fine, sir. Gloves make me slower." "You work too hard," he said, his tone half admiring, half concerned. Her smile softened. "Work keeps my mind from worrying about my mother." Something in his chest tightened. He had heard bits about her mother's illness, about the nights Amara stayed awake praying, the money she sent home each month without fail. He thought of Felicia then, and the sharp contrast nearly took his breath away. One woman who saw work as beneath her, and another who gave her all to serve others without complaint. That night, as he sat in his study, the thought crept in uninvited. What if it wasn't wrong to see her as more than an employee? What if love didn't always arrive in a gown and heels, but in bare hands pulling weeds and a heart that knew sacrifice? But with the thought came hesitation. She was young. She worked for him. He was her employer, a position of power. Would it be selfish to pursue anything more? Would people say he had simply replaced his wife with the maid? Yet no matter how much he tried to silence it, the feeling lingered. In the way his eyes sought her out without meaning to, in the way her laughter from the kitchen warmed the cold edges of his day, in the way he found himself wanting to know not just about her work, but about her dreams. One evening, as they sat at the dining table after everyone else had left, he found himself speaking without planning to. "You've changed this house, Amara," he said quietly. She looked up from clearing the plates. "Me, sir? How?" "You've filled it with peace, with respect, with warmth." She blinked, clearly unsure how to respond. "I only do what I can, sir." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes doing what you can is more than enough." When she left the room, he sat for a long time staring at the empty doorway, feeling the quiet thrum of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. And though he wasn't yet ready to name it, deep down, he knew. This was the beginning of something he would not be able to walk away from. The sky over Lagos was painted with strokes of gold and rose as the sun dipped toward the horizon. The mansion's garden glowed in the warm light, the hibiscus flowers swaying gently in the evening breeze. It was here, among the blooms Amara had tended with her own hands, that Chief Ebenezer stood waiting. He wore a simple white caftan, but the velvet box in his palm seemed to carry more weight than any gold or diamond he had ever owned. Amara approached, unaware of what awaited her. She was dressed in a modest cream gown, her scarf tied neatly, her hands still smelling faintly of the fresh bread she had baked for dinner. "You sent for me, sir?" she asked, stopping a few feet away. "Yes," Chief said, his voice softer than usual. He gestured for her to join him beneath the shade of the old almond tree. For a moment, he simply looked at her, really looked at her. The strength in her eyes, the humility in her posture, the quiet grace that made every space she entered feel warmer. "Amara," he began, "when you first came here, you were just a maid to my household. You worked hard, kept your head down, and never complained, even when life was cruel to you. Over time, I came to see more than just your work. I saw your heart, a heart filled with kindness, loyalty, and compassion." Her eyes widened slightly, but she remained silent, listening. "You healed this house," he continued. "After years of noise and pride, you brought peace back into my life. And in doing so, you healed me." Amara's throat tightened. "Sir," he smiled faintly, opening the velvet box to reveal a delicate gold ring, its single diamond catching the last rays of sunlight. "I've been thinking about this for months," he said. "Love doesn't always arrive in the way we expect. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and right in front of us. Amara Nwokolo, will you marry me?" For a moment, she could only stare, her mind racing. "Sir, I'm just a maid." "No," he interrupted gently. "You are not just anything. You are the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. The title of maid was your job. The title of wife will be your honor if you'll have it." Her eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth with trembling hands. "Yes, yes, sir, I will." Chief's smile broke wide, warm, and full of relief. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and for the first time in years, the mansion's garden heard genuine laughter, theirs mingling with the wind. The ceremony, held 2 months later, was elegant yet simple, just as Amara wanted. There were no blinding chandeliers or walls lined with roses imported from abroad. Instead, the hall was filled with fresh flowers from local markets, white drapes that swayed gently, and the scent of palm wine in the air. Chief stood tall at the altar, dressed in a rich navy abaya, his eyes fixed on Amara as she walked toward him in a white lace gown. She carried no air of pretense, just the quiet dignity that had first caught his attention. When the vows were exchanged, Chief's voice was steady. "I promise to love you, protect you, and respect you, not because of what you do, but because of who you are." Amara's